Everyday Business Solutions, the podcast that offers you the right perspective on achieving success. We interview business professionals from all over to bring our listeners the right solutions to all their questions. Season 1 is about change management and enabling you to both face and create change in all aspects of your company. We're talking management, sales, service, HR, and more. Let's jump straight into the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everyday Business Solutions podcast. My name is Haley Morris. As always, I'm your podcast coordinator and host. With me today, I have some really cool people from Smart Financial. And so I have Gavin and Erika with me, and they're going to take a chance to just introduce themselves and also tell us a little bit more about what Smart Financial does. So if you guys don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Erika Navarette. I'm an account manager at Smart Financial. And so what we do is actually very magical. We connect insurance agents with new consumers every day, and we cover the entire country. Now on the consumer side, we connect them with insurance agents that can either give them a better policy, a better experience, better customer service. So we're making a lot of people very happy.
Awesome. Yeah, and my name is Gavin. I'm with Smart Financial as well. Just to pair it off of what she's saying, we work directly with insurance agents. So our job is to make sure that the people we're connecting them with end up becoming sales. So we are all about making people effective with their process, and that's what we do.
Thank you both for that introduction. I think it is really cool what Smart Financial does. And as a little background for our listeners, our parent company, AA Solutions, often works with Smart Financial just because we also work with the insurance companies to provide a CRM and also a auto dialer. So what we're actually going to be talking about today is actually CRMs. I said actually a lot, but we're going to talk about CRMs because when you have huge pivots in society and when you have huge times of changes, if you don't have the right processes, support, and systems in place, you're more than likely going to slip and fall. And so we're going to dive into what exactly makes a CRM beneficial to a business and how you can go about picking one or choosing a different one or optimizing your own if you're in that boat. So will you guys start off first by telling us what your definition of CRM is as you know it?
Sure, I'll go first on that one. So by definition, it's a customer relationship manager. So that's what we do. That's what we use CRMs for, is how do we make these customers and manage these prospects that we have? How do we make them into customers?
And so what a CRM does is or help you organize and automate your workflow. So you are either going to call your consumers, email them, text them. And so the CRM will help you do all of that so that at the end of the day, you can do what you do best. In our case, our agents can stick to selling policies. And, depending on any other type of business, they can stick to doing what they do.
And I'll just add to that quickly, just because, one of the also, we focus a lot because of our role as like connecting with the consumers, because that's kind of the big hurdle we face is, getting the policy sold. But there's so much more to it too. So it's like, if you are the business owner, the CRM helps you stay organized, stay on top of your stuff in the same timeline that you wanted to, and just, not let anything just fall off into, unmanaged, riffraff. So
to kind of summarize, I guess, from my perspective, it's about optimizing those background processes and nuances of what you do to connect with your customer, to do what you came into work to do at the beginning of the day and at the beginning of your business. And it's really cool because from your guys' perspective, you use a CRM, but it's not like where we sell one. You recommend them because of their functionality, because of their use and their benefits. So if you don't mind, tell me a little bit more about the benefits that you see on your side as far as specific features that actually cause that optimization.
Well, the automatic dialers are important. That's one of my favorite features. The analysis overall, I mean, from my side, I can take a look at the analysis that the CRM is reporting, and I can use that to maximize their investment, add exposures to the areas we're seeing the best results from, and help with the strategize the game plan for the coming weeks and coming months.
Yeah, and with my agents, a lot of times it's just the question of, when I start working with a new agent, I say, hey, so if you want to make these leads work to, work better, right? We should take a look at what we're doing. And usually a CRM is the first place we look, because if you're not using a CRM, you probably don't know how many calls your people made today, how long they were on the phone, what prospects they talked to, what kind of notes were left on them, and what kind of disposition status those leads have. So CRM helps you stay organized on all that stuff, and then make sure you follow up at the right timelines. Along with that, just as a business owner, you're paying a lot of money for leads, and you're just asking, and then someone says, like me, says, hey, well, you should definitely invest in a CRM to utilize. And they ask me, like, why? Like, I already spent all this money on these leads. What features am I gonna get out of it? And that's kind of what I say is, you want a power dialer, you want to stay organized, leave your notes, have a clarity on what your people are doing, and just be able to, at a glance, know where you're at with your leads, or just any of your business prospects. You don't really want to have to dive in for 15 minutes to figure out, oh, Frank, he told me to call him back a couple weeks from now, but what was the thing that he asked for? And I realized I just missed that by a day because I didn't have a CRM that told me to call him.
So it's kind of cool with the CRM, a really great way to think of like this history notes and some of the tracking that you do is it's increased memory. It's like your backup drive for yourself.
Yes.
And it's your own notes. It's your own hand that makes them. The machine isn't running your calls and creating the notes for you. It's you doing it. It's you doing all the input and all the work. It's just making more efficiency around the people aspect of what you do.
Yeah, we're all people. Like I wish I had an iron trap memory and could remember, oh, I told him I'd call him in 2 days, but I got too many other things going on. A CRM is the only way I can get it done.
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but the way time passes, I'm pretty sure 2 weeks flies by like way too quickly for what it's supposed to. So, especially because I think it was just March, like yesterday.
Yeah.
That was the last time I left my house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I notice, I see the difference between an agency who does have a CRM and one who doesn't. It's very obvious sometimes. They're having better success whenever we know there's a CRM involved in their follow-up and their campaign. So it makes a difference. It really does. So investing in it, it is worth it, especially with us. So that way they can completely maximize their investment with us. So we see it, we recommend it every day, and we integrate with a lot of them. So there's a lot out there, but there's probably a few features that might be more important to others depending on the business. So we support CRMs.
If I could just add a little thing to that, is like, depending on what, for the people that are listening, they may not be in insurance, or I'm assuming they're not. But there's a bunch of things that you realize that, like, just interacting with a customer, it's never like a one call and we're done and move on with life. There's usually like, oh, hey, he's ready in a week, and now I got to call him in a week to remind him. But I also want to send an email a day before to make sure that he knows I'm going to call. And if I'm telling myself, okay, Gavin, remember to email this guy on Thursday and then call him at 12 o'clock on Friday. Just, I got too many things to do. Like, I wish I could do that, but it's just one of those things where it helps you make sure that you get to the end product or end state that you want. So whether you're dealing with a customer or just a task or just anything that your business needs, how are you using like a calendar where you hand write it in there? I love doing that, but also that calendar doesn't like slap you in the face and say, hey, like you needed to call this guy today. Like, That's what I like about my CRM. It tells me what to do.
Mhm.
I like it too because if you, for example, if you do call someone, you do an appointment, you forget to enter the notes and check that off, it'll put it in your neglected, or it like will indicate that you're late and you didn't do that. So then you can actually go back, enter the notes and be like, oh yeah, I have to schedule this appointment to follow up, versus if you're just relying on a calendar and you forget to write it, then you forgot to write it. And if you have to follow up in a week or 2 weeks or 6 months, you forget to follow up at the end of the day.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, anything that we do manually just takes longer, and that just kind of delays our goal at the end of the day, and that's to make sales in all industries, when we're selling a product. So, and I know sales reps are hungry for sales, but so it isn't anything that they're doing wrong. It's just there's a delay between the manual calling that they're doing, the manual emails, and it'll speed up the process a lot with the CRMs that are implemented.
mhm. The one thing I noticed too that is probably especially big right now when we have so many people working from home, like both of you right now, is that it deletes, well, it doesn't delete, it reduces some of that human error. So, like we were talking about the drop ball on the appointments and stuff like that, but other things as far as how you enter, where people are at, it's easier to pick out incongruencies or where things were missed. And it reduces that error so that people can be confident in their job. Because I think, especially if you're training someone new, if they're making mistakes, sometimes it's very disheartening. And that's not necessarily a character fault. It just means they want to do good and they feel they aren't. So the system gives them room to, focus on what they're doing and celebrate those successes.
Yeah, if I could just like take a point real quick is, so if I am talking with my agent and we're asking like, what's the difference between one that uses CRM and one that doesn't? A lot of times, if someone's asking me why they should get a CRM, I'll say, go time one of your agents working one lead. Figure out how much time that exactly takes. Like, is it 2 minutes? Is it 3 minutes? Is it 4 minutes? And then let's think, okay, if it takes, if we have a 20, 30, 40% contact rate with our leads on one call, then we need to make X amount of calls. And if it takes me 3 minutes to make that one call, just to pull up the paper, look at the name, look at the phone number, dial the phone number, then make the call, leave a little note, file that paper back, pull out the next paper, look at the name, like all those little steps end up, when you scale them, they don't give you your bottlenecked so much more. So just with a lot of my agents, it's just like, okay, how many minutes does that take? If it's 3 minutes and I can get you on a CRM, I can get that down to 1 minute, because you'll start the phone call, you'll have your notes ready, picked up, didn't pick up, move in, already dialing the next call. And that's also just a lot easier for us as people to sit down, get those calls done by clicking a button, leaving some notes, not by having to literally hand key 10 digits for each name and then go through that whole process. It just, it's so much easier on us as people just to use a system that facilitates all that stuff.
And other people are. So if you're working in the insurance industry or you're working somewhere else, a lot of times the competitors are already doing it because
Yeah.
it is so efficient. It makes sense. And it doesn't matter if they're all doing it. If even one's doing it, they're taking your customers more than likely. So if you're not beating them to the ball, you might kind of drive yourself right out of business at the end of the day. And then two, with that, I guess we've mentioned that it hinders you significantly if you're taking leads from Smart Financial or someone like you and not having a CRM to put them in. Do you know kind of what it does as far as like the amount of those leads that actually get contacted versus not?
There is a lower contact rate when you don't have a CRM. See, right now, I mean, a few months ago with the pandemic, we knew everyone was home, so everyone's schedule was a little predictable. We were easier to contact. But now everyone's going back to their normal routines, going back to work. So when we're calling someone that we don't know what their schedule is like, it may require multiple calls to get a hold of them at the time that's best for them. We're all busy living very fast-paced lives. So It may not always be easy to get a hold of someone if you're only calling them once a day. And let's say they're calling that consumer once a day at the same time. What if they're calling them the same time that they're on their way to work, driving to work? You're not going to get a hold of them. So CRMs will help you automate the times that you're following up with your consumer, calling them at a different time. So it will tell you when to call next, when to email next, when to text next. So that improves your contact rate automatically.
It's really, I'm sure it affects that, but then also, what about that, like the ability to be quick about contacting them? Forgetting the word right now, but like that quick
Speed to
response.
dial. Yeah,
There we
speed to
go.
dial. Big thing in the industry is like, hey, if I get a lead right now, that means someone just filled out a form and they're sitting there waiting at their computer for someone to call them and give them the actual quote. And so if you are, so a lot of people get really focused on it and on this. They say, hey, if I get this lead, if I miss that speed to contact, if I'm 5 minutes late, well, you know what? They're already on a phone call with another agent. So I missed that opportunity. And every statistic you see everywhere will say that if you're working your leads, you're like 200, 300% more likely to be able to contact that lead if you call them within the first 5 minutes. So CRM is going to help you, like how our stuff will work. We would port directly into the CRM. You get a little notification, and a lot of CRMs will have the option to just immediately start a phone call. So you're faster than a human, I guarantee it, because it's just on. So I think that's a big thing, but also say they don't pick up. You know, the lead's not done right then because you made one call. In fact, if you look at like the old advertising rules of like, take 7 to 10 contact attempts before someone even makes a decision on an ad. So like you see the Coca-Cola banner go by, but until the 7th to 10th time, you don't decide yes or no. It's just kind of passing by. So, and I think that applies definitely with leads. Sometimes people don't expect the phone call, or you know, they're maybe more resistant to answering a phone call. Like, hey, email me all this stuff. I'd prefer that. Well, you know what? If you're a sales agent, you want to get on the phone. You want to have a phone conversation, not an email conversation where you send them the rate and they say, "Oh, that's high," and you're like, "No, but it's high because of the coverage I gave you and the things that you need." And you don't really have that same ability to have that conversation through email, at least in my opinion. So I think that if you have a CRM that allows you to remind, like, so say you get the lead now and you call them right away because you have that automatic feature and they don't pick up. Well, I think it's a great idea if you call them in an hour. And if we just think about getting multiple leads a day, and so they don't pick up on one call, now I got to call them in an hour. Are you like setting a timer on your phone? How are you doing that? Like, that's just so hard. So if I had a CRM that just teed up a call in an hour and said, hey, it's time to call this guy again, my job is so much easier, like so much easier. So I digress, but I love CRMs.
But that's the point, isn't it? Like you're passionate about it, even though it's not a product that you sell, because it actually is so beneficial. And you guys use one too, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
do. Our call center, we have our very own call center as well that is smiling and dialing all day long for our agents. So they go through many calls throughout the day to get the contact, and we see what it does even on that side.
It's huge. And it's so good to hear, like, not only are you pressing it to these new consumers because it's beneficial to them, but you can tell firsthand why it's beneficial because you use it in-house. I feel like that's the huge thing as well. So
You got to
going,
remember, sorry, you got to remember that our job relies on the agents selling the leads. If they're not making a return on investment, they're not going to be our customers for very long. So it all hinges on this kind of stuff. That's why we like it.
And my ultimate goal, our ultimate goal is to have a long-term partnership with our agents, because no one is driving around looking for them. That, you know, the digital transformation that we're going to, this is why consumers come on the internet, on a website like ours, and are actively looking for them without knowing how to find them. So that digital transformation has made the shift in our industry anyway, and the way our agents get consumers in their books.
it's it's like you said, it's so much different these days, and there's such an emphasis on instant gratification. And so from the business side, you have to be able to keep up with it. You have to be able to respond because somebody's, like I said before, somebody's already doing it. That's why there's the demand is already in place for a quick response. So I would move on then too and talk about when someone is looking for our CRM. So say they're listening to this episode right now and they say, that sounds like a great idea and I don't have it yet. Well, first off, a business might say, well, what if I'm too small? I only have 10 people. I don't think I need a CRM because I think it'd be too big of a system. What do you have to say to that?
Well, what I see is that the numbers play such an important role on our end. So although they have, that means knowing that there's 10 sales reps right away, I know they need at least 100 leads a day. And that sounds like a lot to some agencies, but it really isn't when you have a CRM that can help you automate the workflow and it takes off. It'll also allow the sales reps to stick to what they're doing, and it's selling the policy and going through more leads quicker and faster. So the numbers play such an important role, even when, we have agents that are a one-man show and they also require a CRM, and it allows them to go through more leads faster, especially when they don't have sales reps selling for them. They're doing it all. So as a business owner and a one-man show, a CRM is even more important. So the smaller you are, the more important the CRM is.
Haley, it's a great question because seriously, there's people who get, who sign up with us and they just said, I just spent $1,000 for these leads. Like, you mean that I need to buy another product? Why didn't you tell me this on sign up? And it's like, well, we don't sell a CRM, but you should have one because frankly, if you're expecting to get a certain return on some leads, first of all, how are you tracking that? A CRM. So you want to make sure that whatever investment that you make on whatever your lead base is, if you're buying leads or something like that, that you actually recoup that cost. And if you're, in my mind, it's almost like you're going halfway attempt if you're not using one, because you're saying, you know what, I'll remember all the things, I'll do all the work, I'll do all of the heavy lifting myself. But what's going to happen is in a couple weeks, if you don't see immediately the results that you're looking for, you're not going to want to do all the heavy lifting. And it's going to be so much harder to, your mojo will be gone at that point and you're not seeing the results and you're thinking, oh, like, should I give up? Or there must be some other solution. But I would say is if you had gotten a CRM or if you get one now, you can then take all your effort and you could streamline it to just that, that 80-20 rule, that 20% of the things that really are going to give you the value, like that's the stuff that you as a person should be involved on. The rest of the stuff, let your CRM do it.
It kind of made me think as you were talking of to get leads from a source like yours. So they order the leads or they work with you and they purchase the leads and they're waiting for them to come in. It's almost like showing up to a race, getting in your blocks and wearing regular tennis shoes instead of getting a pair of spikes. Like, totally. Yeah, you're going to be able to run the race and you may be pretty fast. So you may actually not do half bad, but that person who's got spikes on the bottom of their shoes that are built to fit their foot just right is going to probably outstrip you 90% of the time because they have the tools to support the race they just signed up for. So that's kind of what just as you were talking, I did track for 5 years and that is,
same.
Yeah, it's what it made me think of is like, I couldn't imagine, I did high jump, I did not run. But it makes me think like, what if I had shown up to a high jump meet in just my tennis shoes? I would not have gotten very far.
If you've ever like coming from my perspective, and I love track. I used to be cross country, but I just built like a bunch of like woodwork stuff, and I realized having the right tool for the job makes the difference. Like being able to do the thing the way you want it to do, or like cobbling it together. Like there's a big difference. But just having the right tool, like don't do all the work. Don't make it so much harder on yourself. Like use the right tool.
Mm-hmm. No, we just did laminate on our basement walls. It gives us a really cool lodgy finish feel. It makes it look super expensive, and it wasn't. But if we hadn't bought the nail gun, I'm sure we would have had a field day putting those up.
And it wouldn't have looked as
Oh
good.
yeah.
Oh, no, and it wouldn't have gone nearly as fast. So, especially because the first time we got the wrong stuff and it all fell down.
Nice.
Yeah. So, no, I had to stop there because putting that into perspective, that's what people are doing if they come to you and they want all these leads and they order a bunch of them and they don't have the tools to support it like a CRM. So, all right. So this person who's got less than 10 employees, right? You were talking to them and they say, okay, I'm going to do a CRM. You've convinced me. But CRMs are big. I just did my research and there's a lot of things in them. What features should I look for first if I want to start my research and I want to start talking to these companies that sell them?
Well, if I were to jump in here, I'm not an expert on what any other business needs. So I can just speak on insurance. And I just know there are certain things. If I were to evaluate like that 80-20 rule, like I was talking about earlier, it's like, what are the things that actually get me results? I want to put myself on those activities. I want to also have good organization so that I never miss those opportunities and I'm on them. But if I have to manage, like if I'm a business owner that needs to make sure my people hit a certain amount of calls a day or hit a certain metric every day, I want that kind of stuff to not occupy my mind. So I want to look for all the features that I would need to manage the elements of my business that I need. Do I need inventory management? Do I need, hours management? Do I need, let's get that stuff in order so you can focus on the important stuff.
And the metrics of the results, they can see exactly what revenue is coming in and if there's any losses as well. If something's not working out, they can take a look at all that. Or if their team, they can also see who's may need some coaching, who's not selling enough, who's not producing enough. They can also take a look at all that. A lot of the times their team may also need some coaching on selling their product or improving their process.
I'd agree. And I think the only thing I would add to that is that last aspect is training, making sure not just that the front end training is there, because that's great, but that you also have continuous training. So if you bring on someone new, or if you add a feature, or if you're using it and you just want to optimize your use of it further, because CRMs are big. That's why I asked that question. They're huge systems. So a lot of times you start smaller, you work with a couple different features and you learn those, and then you grow and you optimize more of the system over time versus, gung-ho feet in. Because I don't think there's too many people who can actually go at all the features of a CRM the first time and just have it mastered in a day. So it is really important for, like you said, identifying those areas that are important first.
And could I just say that I think one thing that I know you should look at, pretty much anyone, is make sure they have good support, because there's a lot, CRMs, they're very technical. And if you're the person trying to figure out how to make like the tech work, it's especially if you're a business owner who's focused on other things and you're not a computer expert, which is most of the people I deal with, you want to be able to pick up the phone, talk to someone, have them show you. Or also, what's always great is having like a website that has a really good support page where, if I did want to just get it done myself, I can look up the problem that I have or the instruction, manual, and very quickly find what I need. Like, I think that's huge.
Well, and if you have a bigger team too, and your own team's going to be calling up or looking for information to help them, being able to have both options available and have really good options on both sides, they're able to seek the help themselves and then possibly even help get their teammates up to speed. So, all right. Well, I think we're kind of getting to a good point where we can start wrapping up. So I want to ask you both, what advice would you give somebody who is looking to either optimize the CRM that they maybe purchased already and aren't, or are looking into purchasing their first CRM for their business to help it grow.
Want me to go? I'll go.
Please.
Let's do this. I would say do an audit of your current actions. Where are you strong in? Where you're not? Like, what are you actually getting done? And really just do a clear-eyed look at your activities and just say, where do I need help? Like, what kind of, if I'm unsatisfied with any of those numbers, when I take the look at that, figure out what systems you need in place to increase that. Start that process now.
And at the end of the day, the cost will pay itself out. If someone's afraid to invest on a CRM, you're gonna, from what I see, the losses are worse than just taking the time to spend a little bit more to make your system and follow-up process better.
All right. Well, thank you both. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Erika, for coming on this show today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in for yet another episode of Everyday Business Solutions. I want to ask you, don't forget to subscribe if you aren't already, and give us a review. Let us know what you think of this episode and the other episodes that we've had so far. I love learning from people like Gavin and Erika, but I really love hearing your feedback as well. It's extremely valuable. And I also do want to remind you, everything that we just talked about will be transcribed and put up on our landing page for you to view, as well as contact information for Smart Financial, so that if you want to go ahead and get some leads for yourself, you know where to find them. Thank you and have a great day.